Hey guys, so because this channel is a little bit of everything, this week I'm going to focus on building a rat trap. Now this is not just any rat trap. As some of you guys know, I used to keep huge amounts of reptiles. At one stage I had over 2,000 reptiles in my room at the back of the house. So I needed food for them, and I needed a cheap and easy alternative, because at the end of the day, paying for rodents would have cost me an absolute flippin' fortune. 7 rand a mouse times 600 mice a week, the numbers would have just run away with me. So I developed a rat trap that catches the mice alive, and we've got a big enough farm and we don't poison here, so pretty much it was a perfect solution to the problem I had with the feeding of the reptiles. So I'm going to show you today how to build that trap. 12 traps, kept over 1,000 reptiles in food. At one stage I did go up to 30 traps, and then I was actually giving rodents to my friends who had reptiles. So let's dive straight into the video, shall we? Guess what I found? A Parabuthus. These are one of the most deadly scorpions we have out here. This guy stings you, have a bad week. But yeah, you can see that thick tail and those tiny little pincers. Anyway, don't need them. Okay, so what I got at this scrapyard was this. It is a old air filter. You can see it's got this nice expanded mesh. Oh, be quiet. It's got this nice expanded mesh over here on the edges. So what we're going to do is we're just going to remove this plastic thing. Yes, and these are really nice, decent tin snips. Okay, there we are. That came off. Alright, so now there are two ways you can do this. The one is to catch the corner here. What I'm going to try to do. There she comes. You can see I'm actually just twisting this off here. Once it gets going, it gets a lot easier. Once you started it initially, it's a lot easier from both sides. I'm actually just going to put this in a vise and give it a good pull. Alright, so that's that side off. Now we just got to get the other side off. So once you've got it to this stage, all you're going to do is you're going to take this, choose a line, and you're just going to cut along that line all the way down. Okay, so what you have here is all that you need to do now. Let's give it a good pull. Ah, just tore my mesh. It's a little bit more stuck in there than I thought it was. Okay, let's try the other side. There we go. And you're just going to go around, just slowly releasing this mesh. Okay, there we go. That side's done. This side. This glue's got thick here. That's why this mesh tore. Okay, well, there we are. There's our one piece of mesh. Now there is another piece of mesh on the inside here. What I tend to do is I just cut this stuff, and there we are. Got our other piece of mesh. Okay, so the length I wanted is 34, which is the full length of this gauze. The only thing I'm going to change a little bit is I'm going to trim this one edge, because I can't attach anything to this edge because of this lip. So I'm literally going to trim it half a gauze. And I want the circumference to be 42. 42 takes me to that line there. So what we're going to do is we're just going to quickly cut that off. That line there. Okay. Now we're going to cut this through. So now I have my main piece. This is going to be the outer cage. Okay, so now we have our sheet. We want to go 12 in. That is going to be the bottom of the cage. So 12 in will take us to that line there. So what I usually do is I just then bend that one pin out so that I know where I am. And what I'm going to do is I am going to bend it on that line all the way through. Once you've got it bent on that line, you can just give it a bit of a squeeze. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to open it up. We're going to attach it to there. So that is going to be roughly the shape. Obviously we're going to have to refine a little bit. This little sheet that you've got left over, depending on the size, you can also just cut a little trapdoor quickly out of it. Mice don't need a very big trapdoor. I'll attach that little trapdoor later. So now what we're wanting is a piece between 17 and 18 centimeters long. So we've got one right in the middle. Perfect. So we're going to cut it on that line there. All right. Got this as 13. My base is 13. And it ended up being 13. So what you want to do is you've got that cut there. Now you want to go 13 on this side. "13" is that line there. Now you just want to cut these till they join. So this is going to be your base of your cage, as it were. It's 3, 4, 5 on either side. 5 whole ones on either side. That's what I'm going to do. And you want to leave 2.5, and I'll show you why in a second. It's actually very important that you leave 2.5. So now we have our main trapdoor base. The way I've designed it is so that it fits exactly onto the next one. If you have a look at that, it is perfectly the same length. Or you can even use this piece here. You won't need all of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut along here. Because it needs to be the same length. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to start curling it. And you want to make sure that this curl is perfect and nice and round. You can actually go onto a piece of round pipe or something and curl it properly. I just like to do it with my hand just to get the gist of it. And this also depends on the size of the rodent you want to catch. So that size to there would probably be the best for things like rats. If you're only catching mice, you can make it to there. So it really just depends on what size rodent you want to catch. But I want to be able to catch rats with this trap, so I can actually slice it along here. So I'm not going to give you the dimensions exactly of what I've just done there, because at the end of the day it will differ from person to person. So we're going to attach this onto this like that, boom to boom. Now the trapdoor, whatever way you have your mesh lying, you want to have it the other way. So the mesh is lying like that, you want to put it like this. Okay, and I don't want to use this piece here very much, so I'm going to give it a bit of space there. And I want it to almost be the same length as this. So I'm going to cut it. You want it to half overlap on your edges. So on this side, half overlap is to there. That's where we're going to cut it to. I'm going to cut this one through here. But a copper wire works best for this next section of what we're going to be doing. So just get some copper wire. You'll see why we're using a copper wire a little bit later on. It'll make sense to you. You can also use a thin gauge of normal wire. I used to do that, but yeah, I don't have any of it at the moment, so that's why I'm really stripping some copper. Okay, got our copper wire. There's some more here if we need it, but this will probably be enough. You're going to stick your copper wire through. You're going to bend it over like that. And what I tend to do is I just do this, and then I just spin the cage. And what will happen is it will create a little tie. And if you spin it enough, it just falls off like that, and then that piece is connected. You do that a couple times along the course of your cage, and it will be very, very, very secure. Okay, and now you can refine your shape of your cage a bit. Now that that is done, you can squish it a bit and make it the shape you want it. I like a dome shape like that, so something like that, but everybody's got their own preferences, and yeah, you can make it whatever shape you want. This of course can also be a square cage, and we're going to work on our trapdoor. So we've got our trapdoor, we need it to bend over on that line over there, so this line here, and what we're going to do is we're just going to bend it just like that all the way along. It looks like quite a hectic bend, but you need it like that. Okay, so what we have is we have quite a serious bend. Now we can go ahead and put it on right now. I'm not going to just do that as of yet because I want to attach this first. Okay, now we're attaching this piece. As you can see, we are getting on, just moving forward. Okay, so now we've secured a piece on the back here. We're just going to cut it out because obviously we don't want this big piece in the cage. I want it to look a little bit neater than that. Right, as you can see there, we have got a little area for the mice to walk through, and then we don't have a trapdoor on yet. So you want it to go to the end, to there, so there's no gap. Okay, and then you're going to have a look here where it connects, where your bend connects. It's going to be a hinge, so we're going to double this over. So there gives us a gap, there doesn't give us a gap. So there's perfect. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to the bend here. I'm going to stick this one through there, and then I'm going to pull it back through this side. So it's going to look like that. And now, because it's a trapdoor, you don't want to tie it tight. You do want it to be secure. So what we're going to do is we're just going to give it a twist or two just to tighten it, but not to tighten it, but to give it a little bit more stability, because you also don't want your trapdoor going from side to side. Okay, so what we have at the moment is a trapdoor that can fall open to there and that can close. Now, but of course it can slide from side to side. So we're going to have a look again. All right, and this time I am actually going to put it on the outside over here as far as I can away from that other point, and that will secure it nicely. Okay, so now we've got a trapdoor that can open and close, but you can see it doesn't quite close exactly. So I'm going to have to bend this just a fraction over here and just a fraction over here, and that should close it nicely. There we are. You can see it closes nicely. Beautiful. Okay, so now we need to get a spring. Now this is going to be the technical part of this trap. So we're looking for an extension spring or anything. Oh, there's an extension spring. Small extension spring. Okay, so this is actually for the fingers for the planters. These are fingers for planters. I'm going to use one of those extension springs. They fit on like that and they connect to the next one, but that's what I'm going to be using today. Depending on what spring you have is depending on where you need to put it. If you have a very weak extension spring, you need to put it over here somewhere. If you've got a very strong extension spring like this, you're going to need to put it somewhere like right here. I couldn't fit it through the gap, so I'm going to modify it. Just cut it off a little bit, the end of that spring, So I'm just going to take a pair of pliers and bend it, make it into a much smaller little loop. We can stick this in there. And we can also just hook it on straight with a pair of pliers. Okay, now we got to see. I would say that that is too weak. So we need to up the power. Let's have a look at that. That's a bit better. You can see how it closes nicely. There we go. That will hold. So we've got a trapdoor that will work quite nicely. Okay, so the reason this works so well is when the rodent is over here, it's not letting the trapdoor down. But as it goes further on, it creates a lever action. Over here on this side, if I put a small little weight and slide it forward to here, you can actually see it opens the trapdoor. As you can see, it closes nicely. Not quite nicely. I think I just need to bend this a little bit more. And you can continue to fiddle like this to create the perfect trap. There we are. That's worked very well. You can see it closes very nicely. Look at that. Perfect. Okay, now we're going to attach this to our cage. So what I like to do is I like to give it a space of about 4 of this mesh, which is probably just a bit higher than the rodent's eye height that you're trying to cache. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. So now what we have is we have this, which is quite a nice trap actually so far. So the mouse will come in here, trapdoor will go down, mouse will go inside, trapdoor will pop back up, and mouse will be stuck in there. So what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and we are going to put it on, and then we'll cut it off. And then we'll see what scraps we have left over. I actually think, you know what, I actually think I'm going to do it on the front here. And then we'll see what scraps we have left over for the other side. Now all you got to do is just cut it out nice and neatly. Okay, once your opposite side is done, then we're going to put the trapdoor in. To get the mice out when you're done. I like to put it on the side here, quite low down. Just like the other one, we're not going to tighten it, we're just going to cut it off. Just like that. Okay. Now I'm going to make a hook for it. You can do this hook many different ways. I like to actually physically make a decent size hook, and you don't even need to do a hook, you can do something completely different. Alright, and then you just make sure, squish that flat, put that through, and voila. Okay, so that's where the trapdoor will be. For the handle material, I'm going to use a much thicker wire. What I usually do is I just bend it over. So there is the middle of the trap, so that's where I want my handle to go. Okay, and it can go back through that one, and then I can just crimp it. I usually make it about that long, and then I will actually go ahead and bend another circle in it. And this is not just simple wire, this is steel wire, so this is the same stuff I make my darts from. Very, 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 very hard stuff. Okay, and then I need another piece of wire, and I actually want to bend a loop in this piece of wire. Okay, so what you should have is a handle that looks something like that. Okay, so I'm going to cut out the trapdoor. I usually do this with a pair of side cutters, but today I cannot seem to find my side cutters. There we are. Now the trapdoor is open too. I mean that door's open too. So now if the mouse goes in here, it will drop down, mouse will be stuck in there. Last thing to do is to show you how this trap actually functions. If you're going for flay rats, that is what you are looking for. You can literally see hundreds and hundreds of guano. The flay rat sits there every day. That's not the species I'm going for. I'm going for field mice because my snakes prefer them. Looks like a very good spot for field mice. So when you're busy setting the trap, you've got most of your food on the inside of your trap like that. You want it to be spread out over the bottom. The whole bottom of your trap must have food on it. And then what you can do is you can find a nice flat level place. I like to stick it away, otherwise what happens is your owls tend to take it and they'll actually to make away with your trap. So just put it like that over there. Make sure it's nice and flat. Make sure the rodents cannot get underneath it. It's quite important. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some pips, throw it in the front of the trap, and then I'm just going to scatter a few pips around so that the flay rats know what they're looking for. Yeah, that's it. We're going to come back tomorrow morning and we'll see what we caught. We leave it just like that. Owls won't. You often have problems where cats come and mess with traps, but the owls won't find that now. 12 hours later. Let's see what we got in the trap. It's been flipping cold last night, so I'm not holding out much hope for anything wanting to move around. And it is actually still quite cold. My dog's chasing rodents. Okay, so here's where we left the trap. And there is still nothing in the trap. Oh no, look. I got one little mouse, house mouse. That's hardly worth anything, man. I have caught up to 15 rodents in a single trap. Yeah, it's obviously not very many rodents right at the spot. Day 2 of trapping here on this line. Two rodents, both striped field mice. These guys are actually quite cool. They've got these really cool stripes on them. Not sure if you're managing to see it through the gauze, but really cool rodents. And there are 2 in the trap, and of course my dog got one. What are you doing with yours? Are you playing with it? Is it dead? Is it dead? Let me just use this one for it. I'll give it back to you. I'll give it back to you. Let me use it for an example. Drop it. So this is the one my dog caught. That's why it's missing its tail. But if you look at the colors, got these really cool stripes on it. This is the main species which we use for our snakes. Let's go see how my snakes enjoy them. See if my eyelash want a meal. You want a meal, buddy? You want a meal? There we go. Grabbed it. And she'll swallow that whole thing. Look at those colors. She'll chomp that whole thing, no issues. Won't eat while we're watching her. There's the little male over here. I actually have quite a lot of snakes in this collection. So thank you for watching. If you have any suggestions about what videos to do next, please leave them in the comments below. Have a great rest of your day. God bless.